All right, back for another beer review, and today I will be reviewing a beer from the Columbus Brewing Company, and they're out of Columbus, Ohio, and this is their Insane Wanderer Volume 5. So they're calling this an American IPA that comes in at 7.4% alcohol by volume. No IBUs listed in time of review. This bottle is just over 1 month old. So it's been 4 years since I've had anything from the Columbus Brewing Company, and the last beer I had from them just so happens to be my favorite, which is their Bodhi Double IPA. One of my favorite double IPAs ever, actually. And I took a trip to the Cincinnati area back in mid-September, and on the way back, I stopped at a bottle shop outside of Cleveland, and I saw this on the shelf, and I was like, man, I haven't had anything from Columbus in a long time, and it was relatively fresh. And I was like, hey, never heard of this one. Must be one of their newer releases. And then I come to find out that this is actually a rotating IPA series, and this is Volume 5. And this specific beer is using a relatively new hop, HBC 692. Never heard of it. I'd imagine I've had it in a beer or two, but not by itself, and certainly not as like the focus of a beer. I don't think anyway. So yeah, really like what Columbus does. So hopefully this is quite tasty. Like I said, it's been like 4 years since I've had one of their beers. I wish we could get their stuff here in the West New York area, but you know, Cleveland's not that far away, and they stock a lot of their beers. So maybe next time I go down there, planning a trip before the end of the year down to Cleveland, hitting up the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, the whole thing. So probably stop at some breweries there, and maybe I'll bring some back, bring back some Columbus Brewing Company beers. We'll see. Anyway, this is pouring out like your old school, for the most part, your old school, West Coast style IPAs. And, that's kind of what Bodhi's, oh, well, there's a lot of particulates. I don't know how that's going to come off on camera, but wow. A lot of little floaties in there. Yeah. Suspended in animation. So this is like this really nice, deep orange honey color. More to the orange side of things, a little bit of like amber in there, and like I said, tons of particulates. Had about a half finger of a off-white colored head that looked pretty creamy, but now it dissipated to absolutely nothing, thin film. But yeah, lots of particulates in this one, so let's get a nose on it. That's nice. Definitely has West Coast vibes to it. So there's a decent amount of like a caramel, sweeter, bready malt. There's pine resin as well. Grapefruit rind, grapefruit pith. Little bit of like a honeydew melon vibe to this one. More closer to, the white part of the actually honeydew. Like when you get a melon, whether it's watermelon or honeydew, once you get to the outer edges of the watermelon, it's not as sweet, but still has the melon characteristics. That's pretty much what I'm getting in the nose. A slight hint of like a bubble gum, like yeast ester type of thing. Yeah, definitely bubblegummy. Like melon gum. That's not watermelon gum, but like melon gum. Really weird. Touch of like earthiness, a little bit of a floral component as well. Yeah, actually quite complex in the nose. There's a lot of different things going on, 6 or 7 different characters. It starts off as this like really nice West Coast style IPA base, but then you're getting like the bubblegum notes you would typically get from like a East Coast or New England style IPA. And then there's like the fruitier new age hop characteristics like the melon and whatnot. So yeah, it smells pretty good. Let's get into it. Cheers, everybody. Yeah. Ooh, there's a spiciness on the taste. (7.4%). This has like a higher side and medium body to it, which is really surprising. I didn't think that this would have, it's not super like viscous and thick, but it has a thicker component to a 7.4% beer than I was anticipating. The mouthfeel, there's a nice crispness, but then there's this really nice soft, smooth character as you're finishing the beer. The flavors carry over quite well. Right up front, that caramel, bready, malt sweetness definitely hits. Passes through the palate. That bubblegum vibe is mixing with the melon characteristics, producing that melon gum that I was talking about in the nose. But then there was an earthy, like floral component in the nose, but on the palate, it's more like a straight on, like earthy spiciness to it. Almost like some of those German hops that give you like a little spicy component to it. It's kind of hitting me mid-palate. And then the rest of the finish is a pretty big blast of pine. There's like resinous pine, just like pine tree, just a lot of pine on the finish. Finishes semi-dry, really not much residual sweetness, and relatively bitter as well. This is like 2 days old, over a month old, so still quite fresh. And you can tell from the hops, it's just like an explosion of that fruitiness, the bubblegum, the pine, the spiciness. It's a very intense beer. And I don't think this is honestly a beer. Yeah, just being honest with you, like I always am with my reviews, I don't think this is a beer that a lot of new age IPA drinkers, if you're accustomed to the sweeter New England style and the less bitter beers, this is going to be a shock to your palate, at least in my opinion. It could be maybe other people are drinking this like, oh, this has a lot of pine, a lot of bitterness. I really can't tell that there's 7.4% alcohol in this one. A little bit of warming actually in the stomach, not even the chest or on the palate. So a little bit of warmth there, but on the palate, just drinks like a 6.5 beer, but the intensity of flavors drink like a 9-10% beer. This drinks like a huge double IPA. The body's bigger, the intensity of flavors are bigger. But I will say this, I'm actually digging this one quite a bit. And when I get beers like this, I think for me, I enjoy them now more than I used to, because I didn't used to be a huge West Coast style IPA fan, or a fan of IPAs that had a big resinous pine kick or like a big grapefruit. That's one thing I'll say. In the taste, I'm not getting a ton of grapefruit. There's a little bit of like the grapefruit pith, grapefruit peel. For the most part, it's that melon. This isn't a huge fruity beer. There's a lot of things going on, but the fruit characteristic is not as big as you would think. I've never had HBC 692 hops, but they're working quite well in here. And to finish my thought, because I have a tendency to start talking about something and go to something else, what I was going to say about these beers, I appreciate them more now because I don't drink them as often. More often than not, I'm drinking New England style or something, an East Coast style or something, milkshake IPA, whatever. So when I drink a beer like this, I don't know what the intention is as far as like if it's supposed to be a West Coast style IPA or whatever. They say American IPA. This drinks like an older school American IPA with a twist of like the new school hops and just like the mouthfeel even. It's crisp. It has a soft smoothness to it that I really appreciate. So I like the complexity of this one. I like the taste of this. I like the intensity. It's nothing, I don't think that's going to set a new standard or blow anybody away, but it's just a really well done, in my opinion, West Coast style IPA, and nothing more, nothing less. So Columbus Brewing Company's Insane Wander Volume 5, I'm going to give that a straight 4 out of 5. It's a damn good beer. It's well made, well executed, and really tasty. Like I said, if you're somebody who doesn't really care for older school American IPAs because of the bitterness, because of the pine resin and whatnot, you're probably not going to enjoy this one. But me, I appreciate these nowadays. Didn't used to be my favorite. Now I appreciate them because I don't drink them that often. So yeah, really do dig this one. If you've had this one before, let me know what you think about it. Price and availability. I don't know anything about the availability. If you're in Ohio, if you're in Columbus, if you know about the availability of this one, let me know. I'd imagine it gets probably decent distribution throughout the state of Ohio. As far as what I paid $2.19 for this bottle. 7.4% American IPA, $2.19. If this comes in 6-packs, you're probably looking at 10, 11 bucks a 6-pack. Well worth it. I don't know if that's the same price that everybody's paying, but for around just over $2 for this bottle, I would say it's well worth it, especially because of the quality of this beer. It's really high. Anyway, appreciate everybody stopping by. To the next one, cheers.